Hey, this is Kieran, Coach's Corner Chats. Today I have Jason Lewis on. Super excited to get some info from him. Jason, give us a little background of like where you're at, kind of maybe a little what you're up to and what have you.
So right now I'm at Oak Hills High School. I've been here for 7 years. I'm an Oak Hills grad. It's a pretty neat and special thing to be an alumni of Oak Hills, and then get to go back and teach and be a part of these kids' lives. I feel like I've had a neat opportunity in high school, and had a lot of great coaches and teachers, and they've made my experience so wonderful. Now I'm trying to give that plus some to my kids. So it's a really neat thing. I coach football at Oak Hills as well, and I just got the strength and conditioning position at Oak Hills. Um, I do all the sports right now. Vision MMA was a company that was hired out by Beacon, and a longtime friend Jason Lane owns that gym and hired me to run the strength program at Oak Hills.
So
Uh,
is the program that you run at Oak Hills kind of based off of what Vision MMA shares, or do you
at
guys
first
compete
it
at all?
was, and then Jason told me to run with it, program it, and let's see what happens. And he ended up really, really liking what I'm doing with the football program in particular. And right now I also have the wrestlers because they're in season.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a really neat thing. It's a really neat opportunity. I've been involved in the strength game, so to speak, for a really long time. Maybe not necessarily in charge, but always in the weight room with our kids, and surrounded by that atmosphere.
I think that's really cool that I teach at Edgewood, and it's always cool to get alumni that come back and teach and whatever. So
Yeah.
it's always cool to have students that come back and then try to, like you said, make that impact because someone's done it for you at some point during your.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a lot of my teachers have, and it's special. I got to teach for a few years with my high school baseball coach Chuck Lauman, um, and it was a treat. It was. He still made me nervous my first day of school, um, but it's a special thing to be able to teach alongside of those teachers that you looked up to as such a young kid.
Yeah. So and just to give idea for people that are our audience, Oak Hills is located where?
On the west side of Cincinnati, um,
Pretty
that's the
big
best.
school. Big school.
Yeah, it's a Division I school. I'm not sure exactly how many students we have, but it's a large school. Yes.
And I know that just from watching this past year, I know the football team started to turn things around and get a little bit of success.
Yes, we super excited about the direction that the football team is taking. I coach defensive line. We just hired Justin Roden last year. Great man. Love him as a person. Great coach. Really good guy. So he took over the program, and I worked with him at East Central as well for a year when he was there. Um, so I kind of knew what he was about and everything like that. Um, but we're turning it around. It's a process, as you know. I'm
Yeah.
sure
The
turning something around that wasn't the greatest, but we're doing it, and the kids are buying in, and we're trying to keep our own kids in our middle schools and also go to our high school instead of going to Elder or LaSalle. Um, so that's a big thing for us, keeping our middle school kids in our school.
yeah. Um, so I'm interested because I'm in the same boat because with taking over the soccer program at Middletown last year, what were some of the things that you guys kind of had on your list of these are the things that we want to get in place now that we know will cause the results we want later, other than we need to keep our talented kids in the district and what have you. But
Absolutely. So the talented kids, like you said, for sure. Um, and then just how we do things. I hate to use the C word in culture, but
yeah,
it is. It's a culture, and you have to change it. Um, we go as far as there's no earrings, no kids allowed to wear earrings in a football function. In that first year, last year, we were reminding kids, take your earrings out, take your earrings out. We wear a certain color shorts on Thursdays. Make sure you got black shorts on Thursdays. And doing those things, now you see why. In the weight room, it used to be a challenge to make our kids work harder. And now in the weight room, I think it's a culture thing. I don't have to yell about working hard or pushing yourself. It's never a topic in our weight room. Before we went on this, we're right now on a 2-week break or 4-week break for football because of the quarantine stuff. And we can't start again till January 4th. But when we were rocking and rolling, kids taking out their earrings, never have to talk to them about effort, and just doing it, building a brand that the community's proud of, and doing everything right, running on and off the field. In the weight room, we started, before we went on this hiatus, you're not allowed to walk in our weight room. You're not allowed to walk on the practice field. We're not going to walk in the weight room. You got to move with urgency. Those types of things, I think are going to carry over to everything else. It's been a pleasure. It's been really fun.
I think that's cool, because that was similar things that maybe the results didn't show up, but I was like, the effort, the focus, like that's stuff that you can control as a player. I don't care how talented you are.
Absolutely.
And the consistency. So I think I love that. And then I know you guys had some results and stuff. What was it like trying to change from almost like a mindset of, well, we're always, because I'm battling that of, well, we're one of the bottom feeders of the league, so we're not expected to win. Was there a moment like during the season, because I know they got a couple wins or a win or two?
Yeah, we got 2 at the end.
Yeah.
The last game came down to the last like 8 seconds.
Yeah. So what was it like for them to finally say, like, what was it, I guess, that experience of them kind of maybe realizing like, oh, you know what, we can compete and we can actually get results?
Absolutely. So early in the year, we competed with Coleraine for about 3 quarters. And I think light bulbs started flashing off in our kids' heads, like, oh my God, like, we could do this. And then honestly, we were physically outmatched against some teams. So that's a big push on our off season this year, of course. But with a month off isn't
it kind of slows down.
Right. So good luck, strength guy. Right. So those games, they were tough, and for our kids to face that adversity and work through it was something as well. When we got our first win, and I know it's terrible, but I can't even remember who it was. I think it was Middletown.
It might have been Middletown.
I think it was Middletown. It was a dogfight. That super athletic team in Middletown, and they worked their tails off. I think they're changing it over there.
Yeah.
But so that first win, it was like a sigh of relief for me. I can only imagine for our kids, because I've been here at Oak Hills for 7 years and coached football all 7. And to get that first one for our boys was amazing. It was an amazing feeling, and getting it for our head coach who has faced some adversity at home with his mom getting diagnosed with cancer and just all kinds of stuff. He had Bell's palsy, just crazy stuff during the year. So after that, our kids get some confidence, right? And they're excited. Practice on Saturday's fun to show up to. Monday practice is even more fun. We have Harrison the following week, and we beat Harrison. And then it's like, okay, here we go. We're going to rattle 3 off here in a row at the end. And we're playing a pretty tough Walnut Hills team.
Yeah. And
we ended up losing with the last 8 seconds or so. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that at the end we had a pick 6 and a questionable roughing the passer call on the same play with 12 seconds left. But the kids fought there too. And you can see the fight. You can see that change throughout the whole year, and it keep cultivating to those last 3 games. And they proved themselves. I think they proved themselves to themselves, which was neat. Our seniors this year will be credited for whatever happens next year.
Yeah, that's
They did a great job. They bought in and did everything that they were asked to do. And it's not easy. Football's not easy. Sports, high school sports in general, are not easy. And they did a phenomenal job for us. And they're going to be the group that will be credited for our success this year. And I think we'll be pretty successful.
Yeah, and to give perspective for some people, like you mentioned, Coleraine. Coleraine is like just a consistent powerhouse in Southwest, or pretty much all of Ohio. They've won
Absolutely
league titles for, I don't even know, like 18 or 20 years, some ridiculous,
20. Yep.
yeah, of ridiculous kind of thing. So for like when he brought up earlier, the ability to go toe to toe with the quality program and walk away with, man, we're starting to make progress. We did similar things like from the soccer field standpoint with playing some of them, because you start getting that light bulb of like, look, now you can compete. Now it's time to get results. In terms of, so what is it that when you transitioned into doing a little more of the strength and conditioning side, and the guy from the MMA place said, hey, I really like what you're doing. What were some of the things that he was a fan of? What kind of things did you kind of implement that were positive?
So we started with his program,
Okay.
which was phenomenal and is phenomenal. And then we met and talked about bulk and hypertrophy, all those types of things. We are big, both of us are big proponent in band work. Bands when you squat, bands when you bench, bands, because you're fighting that pull and contracting your muscle and spending time under tension and using bands have been, I haven't really done it, to be honest, until Jason Lane introduced those to me. And now I've implemented in my program. And I can't tell you how valuable they are. It's a neat thing. You can use bands for everything.
So when you
do
say
a whole band workout.
So because for the uneducated like me, does that mean like are the bands like around their thighs, or
so
on the bar?
We'll put bands in the squat rack. We'll attach them to the bottom and hook them onto the bar.
Okay.
Bench press will do the same. We do a floor bench with the band attached to the rack and the band pulled tight, and bench with that pressure pulling back to activate the lat and shoulder stability while you're floor pressing with a dumbbell. Man, we put them around our hips when we squat. Put them behind our knees when we squat. We can wrap them around our legs when we squat. Do one-arm rows with them. The possibilities are endless, and it's a really neat thing to see. I really like doing one-arm dumbbell rows with a dumbbell and attaching that, stepping on it basically, and rowing it with a band. Again, it's just time under tension, a lot of stability going on in your shoulder as well. So it's a really neat thing, and I swear by them now, and I want to buy 1 million of them. They're awesome. For the wrestlers, that's all we're doing right now in season. Just total band work. And there's a lot of core stability things we can do with bands, and just a really neat aspect to the strength conditioning.
So how the boys bought into, because like, for instance, for me being, in my 40s, I'm kind of a Tom Brady follower. So he does all bands. That's kind of his big thing.
Yes.
But how do you get kind of young kids in the high school age who are just like, dude, we're supposed to be just lifting weights and all this stuff. Why are we going to be adding band? Have they been open to it, or has there been like a little?
They don't. I always try to give them the why. I'm studying right now to get my CSCS in strength and conditioning, getting the certification, and I always tell them why. Why are we doing this? This is because, and they've bought into that. I don't know if I need to tell them the why. I have a pretty good rapport, especially with our football program. and the other kids. I teach PE at school. Um, I I think they just bought in. They want to be good. They are striving for perfection, and right now they want it bad. Do a lot for it, and it's neat. They, I think, if you tell them the why, and you can explain yourself in a way the kids understand and not get too scientific,
Yeah.
the kids will love it and they eat it up.
Do you find because I just wonder about, do you find sometimes you have to have them check their ego at the door? Do you find guys coming in trying to do too much too quickly?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, they want to get strong overnight and they think it's going to happen. They're instant gratification kind of kids, just like any other kid.
Yeah, right on.
They want that instant gratification, and you do have to knock them down a little bit. I have a kid um, who maybe weighs a buck 20 and wants to squat, 185 for reps. And he tries to use good form. God love him. And he wants to get strong overnight. And we talked about the process and all those things, especially we're Olympic based. We power clean, we hang clean, deadlift, squat, bench, all those things. With those movements, your form has to be perfect.
Mhm.
And I've really been stressing it. I tell them, I don't care what your weight is. I don't care what you're lifting right now. I could care less. Um, the weight's going to come on, and it's going to come on in a hurry.
Yep.
We just need to trust this process, and they've bought into that. I mean, it's taken right before we went on break. I think they understood it, so we're going to have to do it again because they think they're going to be able to come in after 4 weeks and lift
Yeah,
exactly what they're lifting.
yeah.
So they check their ego at the door for the most part, but especially when we're working with the high school boys, checking your ego at the door under a squat bar isn't the easiest thing ever. But they're doing it. They're doing a good job of it.
The one thing that's nice about lifting though is the weights pretty much, they'll check your ego. Like as soon as a
Mhm.
dude that's 120 steps under 185 and he goes down, doesn't come back up, it's like,
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh God!"
and it wasn't controlled. I'm sure going down, it was more of a smash session. And it's
Right,
like,
and,
dude,
and we talk about. I mean, I even teach them how to bail on the squat or bail on a front squat, all of those things. And we had a kid right before break. He was squatting 275 pounds for 8 reps, and he could do it, but just missed that last rep and bailed incorrectly.
oh no,
So it was a great teaching moment. Um, Embarrassing for him a little bit when 275 pounds crash on the back of your head.
yeah.
You realize, wow, maybe I should listen a little bit. But it's getting there, slowly but
Good.
surely.
So you said at this point you've done football and wrestling.
Yes.
Have you worked? Will you be expected to work with like all the programs across the board, or is it
So,
pretty much?
so I work with all of them. I have um, Jason Lane and I do the girls basketball program, swimming, girls lacrosse, boys and girls lacrosse, um, soccer, you name it, we got it.
And how do you, so like how do things change? How do you adapt between different types of sports, and what have you?
I think mainly it's our auxiliary lifts that will change. Everybody squats, everybody deadlifts, everybody. We do a dumbbell snatch instead of a barbell. The barbell is really technical lift.
Yeah.
But we'll do that. We'll do that with everybody. And then the auxiliaries will change. Soccer is a very unilateral move, lots of unilateral things because you're very rarely on 2 feet in soccer, especially if you have the ball at your feet.
Yeah.
So we'll do a lot of one-footed things. I mean, even you do a TRX row and lifting 1 foot off the ground and working on balance there. Doing rows, with the band attached to the squat rack and doing them with 1 foot. And all of our programs really do those things, and it's a really neat thing to see the kids develop that balance and things of that nature. So we We try to do unilateral movements a lot with all of our programs. We might stress them a little bit more in soccer. Um, a lot of them do a lot of the same things, a lot of the same movements.
Uh, so what about like like boys soccer versus girls soccer? Same type of exercise, then you just kind of mix and match kind of maybe the weights that they use, or
Yeah. So I've also coached girls lacrosse, believe it or not. That was an adventure as well.
huh,
But I don't differentiate men and women in the weight room
okay.
at all. If I have a girl that can squat 275 pounds, she's squatting 275. Um, I think those things are important to teach young women, especially in today's age, that they're powerful people. They're not bystanders by any means, nor should they be looked at that way. So they're doing the same things in the weight room as well. For women, a little bit more plyometric work in the off season to protect the knees. Lots of ACL things can happen, obviously, especially in soccer. But they're more prevalent women, but learning how to land correctly, jumping, again, unilateral movement, uh, but maybe a little bit more knee protection in girls. Um, but they're also doing, the girls soccer team will do exactly what the boys soccer. No
I think
problem.
that's really cool. Just the way things are now, like now in society, like we're starting to get to that point where people are starting to look at both male and female as, like you said, I don't, when you come in, you're an athlete. Like I'm just
Yep.
going to work with you. And if you're strong, and we'll continue to keep building with you. But if you're not where you're at that level yet, then I'm going
Yeah,
to
we're gonna meet. We
meet
meet
you at that level.
Vision MMA and I and Jason Lane. We really meet the kids where they're at. Especially with swimming, you have a lot of first time athletes because they don't cut. So you'll have a lot of kids that have never squatted, never done anything in a weight room. Um, so we have training bars that we use. Um, we go through the progression of a power clean. We don't just say, okay, we got power cleans. Everybody's doing them today. Here we go. So we make sure we do a pretty good job of teaching and slowing things down and things like that. So even the inexperienced lifter, so to speak, will do those things. But it'll be a progression. I have football guys right now that don't catch a hang clean because they're not flexible enough. I have some girls that aren't flexible enough in their hips to go down in a deadlift and grab a bar. So we put plates underneath it to raise it up a little bit. And then, we work on their flexibility in their hips and those things. So we try to meet everybody where they're at.
That's kind of wild, though, that when just from one exercise, like a clean or a deadlift, you get as a coach, you get so much feedback from just the way that they bend over to pick it up. To
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? Like, and even like you said, not having the flexibility to get a front rack, and what have you, is kind of interesting. And then just for like a football player who's going to have to use his shoulders quite a bit, if I'm a lineman and
Mm-hmm.
I'm blocking, you would think flexibility and strength in my shoulders is an important thing to have. So not being able to,
Strength is usually there. The flexibility is usually a nightmare.
yeah.
Uh,
So what is that? So because their muscles are so strong and bound, is that become?
I don't think that's the reason. I think it's because lack of mobility can be a lot of things, and a lot of times it's because they're not used to it, a new thing.
Hmm,
Um, we've had a lot of different people in the Oak Hills weight room, and now I think we are solidifying our footprint in there. Um, and I think it's becoming more of a common place for them to do power and cleans, front squat, back squat, all those things. So it's starting to be a movement they're getting used to. I don't know how many kids ever Olympic lift or do those things outside of here. So I just think it's a lack of doing more so than being so strong they can't do it.
I'm with you. So it's almost just like getting out of their comfort zone a little bit,
Absolutely.
and just uh, and I know just from experience, just kind of having the confidence to know that just trust that the bar is going to still be there on your, you know what I mean, that you can stand up with it and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh, so you mentioned, so I'm kind of interested. So girls lacrosse, how did that come about, and well, how'd that come about?
Um, Oak Hills was trying to find a coach and had a hard time finding one at first. I was approached by our athletic director. Um, my wife is the head basketball coach at Seton High School.
Okay.
So I asked her about it. Um, I usually coach baseball in the spring, but didn't coach that year. We had a turnover in our baseball program with our head coach. So I was off, so to speak,
Yeah.
that spring, and I took it on. It was last spring. And I will say it was one of the most rewarding things as a coach that I've done, because the girls bought in right away. Um, it was different coaching girls for sure. Um, you know, uh, my voice carries a little bit more than others, and sometimes it gets loud in a hurry. So I had to kind of learn, can't yell at girls sometimes. You can yell at some, of course,
Yeah.
um, but they want to know the why for sure. Um, so he asked me, he asked if I would do it. I thought about it for about 12 hours and said, let's go. Um, but it was neat coaching them. They bought in, like I said. It was a crazy time because that's right when COVID was starting.
Yeah.
Um, so like we started November 1 with our off season stuff. And they worked their tails off. We didn't go in the weight room. We stayed on the field and worked on skill work and stuff like that. But I never had one girl tell me she was cold, or she was tired, or she didn't want to. I had 45 to 50 girls training,
Ooh.
3 times a week, and it was neat that they bought in, like I said, and they wanted to be good. Every kid wants to. I don't care who you. There's no kid that wants to fail. And they saw a lot of progress in their skill work and all those things. So it was neat. It was a really neat year. Seniors that I had were phenomenal. Led a lot of things. But I also only know one way of doing it. And that's, the long way around. You start in November and you go
Yeah.
until the season's over, and we'll see what happens after that. I stopped doing it because the strength portion at Oak Hills occurred for me. And if I could tell you I've wanted one job in 7 years at Oak Hills, besides being a PE teacher, it would be the strength. Because every strength coach I've ever had has been awesome, from high school, college, and in between. So Jason Lane called me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. No hesitation, let's go. And the rest is history there. So I had to tell the girls that I was stepping away. And I had the meeting. They thought it was going to be, hey, we're going to start lacrosse tomorrow.
Oh.
And that was hard, to look them in the eye. But you have that conversation, especially with high school kids today, that you have hard conversations in person.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have them over a computer or on, Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they really respected having a hard conversation in person, and hopefully they take that with them forever. That they now have got hard conversations.
Do you think? Do you think was your plan with them, because you were talking about doing skill work? Do you think that you would put more emphasis on the skill work side and not as much maybe on the weights with them? That's kind of a question I'm going back and forth with a lot of soccer coaches about. Do we need to spend more time on the field doing skill work, like getting better at dribbling, passing, and
Mhm.
supplement the lifting? Whereas maybe something like a football, wrestling, rugby, those kind of things, you have to be, just because of the amount of collisions and running into each other and all that stuff, like your body has to have some mass to it to deal with the rigor of
Right.
that.
Now looking back, I probably would have lifted every day and did 15 minutes of skill work every day. Well, not every day, but maybe 4 times a week. I honestly didn't know the lacrosse game whatsoever. Like
Yeah.
zero rules going in. So I kind of did it selfishly, worked on skill stuff so I could learn the game. The seniors taught me how to play, like literally.
Yeah.
I went to a state coaches meeting or whatever with officials, and one of my seniors is an official sitting next to me in that meeting.
Wow.
And like write stuff down for me and like this. So I didn't know the game very well, to be honest. So I kind of selfishly did it that way. But I would probably, and if you can get kids to do 15 minutes at school in the off season, and then 15 minutes at home, so that's 30 minutes every day. You got something going. Like they would come in the morning and pass in the gym and stuff like that from 7 to 7:30. Um, and they really bought into those things, like coming in the morning and
Mm-hmm.
all those things. Maybe because they didn't have it before. I don't know. But I think I would do half and half because strength is a big deal. And the more I see it, stronger team, bigger, stronger team is going to win more times than not. I know soccer's a different beast a little bit with skill stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
when there's a 50-50 ball and you've been in the weight room and you feel strong today, you're probably going to win the 50-50 ball.
I'm with you. Yeah, that's the kind of I don't know if I call it the elephant in the room, but it's just the question of how much do I need to get the boys in the weight room versus on the field. So that's kind of that balancing act, and what have you. And I know there's all kinds of rules that they have in place through OSHA and stuff with how many kids you can train during the off season and stuff like that. It's a little strange,
Right.
but and what have you. And then like you're dealing with the COVID thing, like where our building is pretty much closed down unless you're an actual in season sport at this
That's
point.
exactly what
So
it is in our school. And it's
yeah,
been
so it's really hurt. Like, and it's kind of a mild winter right now, so it's kind of like we could get out on the turf and do some conditioning and do some kind of body weight type stuff, or even I got some weights out and did farmers carries and stuff like that with them. But so did when you were talking about your communication with the girls and how sometimes it can kind of be loud and kind of at the point, has that changed how you deal with your football players in any way?
So when I first started this whole crazy gig, um, I was a screamer and a yeller. I won't lie to you. I like to yell. I wanted to get loud, and had no reason behind it. And then it just became noise to kids, and they didn't care. Through the years, I have learned um, love them more than you yell at them, and it's really been awesome for me. And I think just as I mature as a professional, a teacher and a coach, it's been awesome seeing the growth of where I was when I first started. I've been teaching and coaching since 2007, and maturing to where I am now. I'll yell if I have to, and the kids know I will if I have to, but I usually don't have to. Very frank with them in conversation, um, and it's a neat thing. I've developed a better rapport with all of the kids, and I think I've always had that, but it's even better now. Um, I would say I changed over the years from 2007 to today. Definitely a human being. My
It's
wife
really,
probably has something to do with that a little bit.
oh, don't they always? I'm sure they do. Yeah, when I first started, I was a basketball coach, and my wife at one point when I first started, she said, "I'm embarrassed to come to games because you're a lunatic on the sidelines." Because when I started coaching, just I think it's hard to transition from being a player to being a coach. So I started coaching as a player. So I was constantly yelling about something over here, and the ball was going down the court over here. I was missing the whole point. The cool thing I've been hearing from you consistently through this like conversation, which is awesome, is one kind of like self-reflection, like you've talked about your growth and how you've come along, and then two, like that communication side, like the why and the like. It's amazing. Like even you just talking about having little conversations with the guys one on one is like I found that this year was huge. That communication, like sending texts and just checking in on dudes, especially with COVID being in the mix. But I think it's really cool to hear that you talk about learning, like you're even saying, look, man, I've been at this for 13 years. I'm into the strength game for a while. And now here I am still going to say, hey, I'm going to go and try to get certified. And I know that test is not easy and all the things you have to do to study for it. So I think that's cool for the kids to see, like, look, I want to get you guys stronger, but if I can find a better way, or if I can get better as a strength coach or as a football coach or as a PE teacher or whatever it is, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing in that way. And I tell them I'm doing it. They come in my office. I have guys that maybe aren't doing great in school, stop in my office, and they'll see me in the middle of studying, and what are you doing? Uh, you ain't alone, bud. And those kind of things. And it's amazing how far a text message, an email, a Twitter shout out, how far those actually go. Um, as soon as we're allowed back in the gym and doing things, I'll have things all over Twitter calling kids out. We're going to have a lifter of the week. We're going to do a lot of special things. And it's really neat to see the growth and just the a simple text message. Hey, checking in. Hope everything's okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited on Christmas morning. I already have my text messages lined up and the players, I don't send group messages when I do that. I send individual messages of just Merry Christmas. I hope you have a great day today.
Yeah.
And how far that goes, like developing that rapport and that relationship with kids. When you do that, it's go time and they'll run through a wall. It's hard to get there sometimes. Some kids are very hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can develop that rapport and that relationship with the kids, it's go time. It'll be great.
Yeah, because I think one of the things I'm hearing too is you can sit there and write a program up on the board, like here's the things we're doing today, or we're gonna whatever it is, or hey, we're running this play on this, we're gonna and what have you, or have your practice laid out for all of your sets. But if there's not that trust, that connection, relationship, like all those little things, you can put whatever you want on the board and run through a lifting session. But if you as the coach aren't bought in, then they're not going to buy in, and then it's just kind of you're just spinning your wheels.
And the old adage I always thought, or the old saying I always thought was kind of corny, is they don't know what you know until they know you care.
Yep.
And it's so true. It's unbelievably true. And just a really neat thing to see it actually happen. Like I have a few kids that I've developed pretty good rapport with. They're my position group and football, and we text weekly, like, hey, what's up? Hope everything's well. How's school? One of my defensive lineman's sisters playing college basketball and went to Oak Hills, so I know her pretty well too. Talk about her sister or his sister and her success and those types of things, which is neat. You get to learn about their family and where they come from and where they live and just those things. It's a special thing. And when they, like I said, when they know you care, it's here we go. There's no stopping them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Jason, I have really enjoyed this chat, man. This has been awesome. If people want to reach out to you, what's their easiest way to maybe continue this conversation beyond just this podcast?
I would say my Twitter, but I don't know what my handle thing is. But probably my email, jason.lewis 3412 at gmail.com. Probably be the easiest way to get a hold of me.
I'll put Jason's Twitter handle in the podcast notes, and I'll share them. If you're following me on Twitter, you'll see it. I've been throwing it out there. So, Jason, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Absolutely. I loved it. It's really neat. I think it's neat what you're doing. And if you ever get bored and want to chat again, I love talking about leadership and how we can do better as leaders and help our kids be leaders. I'm in, buddy.
That's awesome. It's so cool for me to know and talk to people from Southwest Ohio, like in my area, and see guys that are trying to do the right things, be positive impacts, growing players, not just as football players, but when they move on, being like awesome young men in the community. And I think that's what Oak Hills is trying to become, is like, hey, let's build something here in the community that we can be proud of, and keep crushing it. So I'm excited to watch the work you do, and hopefully you guys have some more success moving forward.
Awesome. Likewise, man. We'll stay in touch for sure. And can't wait to see the continued success of your soccer program too. I think it's going to take off. It's going to take some time, but it's going to take off.
Right
you
on.
care. That's all they care about.
I hear you. Hey, this is Karen, Coach's Corner Chats podcast, and I'm out. Peace.
Thanks.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yes, sir.